Hi guys, and welcome to this special video, and it's me restoring this old plane. So I don't know what make it is yet, we'll have to research that, but it's had a full degrease and everything's been polished and some painting, and it works really well. Had some great shavings off it, so it's been refettled and resurrected. So hope you enjoyed the video, everyone. Bye. Hi everybody, Chris here, the blind wood turner. Great to have you back in the workshop. So this new project, it's going to be something completely different, and I found one of Nicola's dad's old planes here, and it's pretty gummed up and there's corrosion on the top, and the sole plate, the sole are all rusty, and the blade needs sharpening. So I'm going to restore this because I've got someone coming to spend the weekend with me at the end of May, and he's a blind guy who's been completely blind his whole life, and he wants to be taught some basics of woodworking and feel different tools, completely new to him, but he admires and loves fine woodworking. He collects Japanese puzzle boxes, so he's going to come and hang out here for the weekend, get his hands on as many tools as we can. He's going to do some hammering and some planing and some cutting, and maybe even get him do a bit of turning. So anyway, I'm going to start the cleanup. So what I've got behind me is some petrol ready in a bowl, so we'll get cracking with that. Cheers. Rightio, so I've got some petrol in here, and I think it's got some two-stroke in it, two-stroke oil, but that shouldn't affect the cleanup. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, just have a feel. Right, so I need to slacken off this nut here and get that in there. Then I've got the crusty blade, so I've got the top part there, top assembly, blade, let's have a feel. Okay, and then you've got that adjustment there. So pretty crusty, so in it goes. Roll the old sleeves up, and I've got a selection of brushes here, so let's start cleaning. What's that one like? What's that one like? Just having a feel here now. Mixture of metal and plastic bristles, so let's get cleaning. Right everybody, that's everything's had a good wash and scrub in the petrol to degrease it. So the component parts here are the knob, which you hold at the front of the plane. There's a little screw there to secure that in place. There's the top part that will force everything, the clamp, and that's the wheel that's part of the clamp assembly that will hold the blade tight. Then you've got the blade there, got a little adjustment ring that fits into not only this rear bolt, this threaded bolt, but it locates in this arm, this lever, to adjust the inclination of the blade. So that's all the parts now, so I'm just going to give them a quick dry, and then I'll get to sanding the metal work on the sole plate and stuff.
So you've got the plain sole in a clamp and you've got sandpaper that you're sanding it with.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I remember doing this. Now, it was held tight in the vise, but not that tight that it would deform and leave marks on the side of the sole plate. So I was using 120 grit, I believe, to start off with here by hand, and rubbing along the length of the sole plate as much as I can remember, and I worked through a few grits, 120, 180 and 240. So wasn't really pressing very hard. I was just wanting to further refine the sole plate and getting a nice smooth finish working through the grits. And I remember that later on I also used some Scotch-Brite and metal polish to get it to where it felt really smooth and there were no heavy dings in it, so it'd make it easier to use when it was all finished and reassembled. So
you're still sanding now, it's on its side now, so you're just doing the side edges.
Okay, so yeah, I did the sole plate, the base, and then I just spun it around so I could get to either side. So all three sides and sort of like the thin front rim, the toe and the heel, just the thin rim, that was sanded too. So it was just to make the plane usable, and I didn't want to make it look like it had just come straight out of the factory. But I wanted it to be smooth and usable and knock the years and years of grime off it. So, because hopefully I've got someone coming, Ed, I think we mentioned at the start of this video.
Yeah.
Ed, you know, I'm going to let him use this plane because it's a nice, decent size.
Right, you've got the Scotch-Brite now.
Okay, yeah, the Scotch-Brite, and I remember this was fun doing this and using it with the metal polish as well, and you're getting all this sort of like polishing slurry come off, and I remember my hands feeling
the black,
the black.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember them feeling all greasy and oily, but it's the smell that came off was really nice. It was like working in an engineering workshop.
So you've got a tube of polish now, I think.
Yeah,
you're dabbing it on.
Yeah, the metal polish. That's the metal polish that actually came with my wet stone sharpening system, and that was the metal polish that was provided for the leather strop wheel for honing. So I've used this metal polish before and it's really good. I used to use it on motorbikes that I owned, so it's one of the best metal polishes you can get, and it's called Solvo Autosol. So if you can get your hands on a tube of that, it's really good stuff. So it's always good to have some of that in the workshop. So what am I doing here now, Nicola?
You're still polishing it with metal polish. You've got two hands going now.
Right, okay. So yeah, working it away. It's very enjoyable. I really did have a lot of fun doing this restoration, and it was nice because this belonged to Nicola's granddad.
Yeah.
This plane. So
we've deduced that, haven't we, because of the age?
Yeah, we've worked out that this plane is made in New Haven, Connecticut, in America, and it's a Sargent, Sargent, number 208, and we found out that this plane was made from 1910 to 1944. The way to distinguish the earlier ones had an Indian mahogany knob, and the later ones just had a mahogany knob. So I don't know what sort of knob was on it.
You've now got, I think, the blade.
Right, the blade, yeah, again, it went through the same process of sanding. This didn't go on the belt and disc sander because it's so thin in profile that I'd have sanded the end of my fingertips away trying to hold it, and I didn't really want to be bothered with building some sort of jigsaw device to hold it. I thought I would just do this by hand. So again, but actually I probably started with 80 on this, hand sanding to get the crusty rust off, that real thick and old rust. So started with 80 and again worked through 120 up to 240.
You've got it lying down now on some slip-proof mat. I think you've got it on.
Yeah. It was just proving to be difficult to hold it and get enough pressure to remove the rust. I remember feeling parts of it, and the rust wasn't really coming off as fast as I'd liked. So I put it on some non-slip matting, so I could work on it easier.
I think this is the bit that's got the name on, hasn't it?
Yeah,
it's just under your hand at the minute, but I think I can see when you move your hand away, there's some writing on there.
Yeah, the plain blade is where the name is, the Sargent logo, and what type of plane it is. So I'd already, realised that after I'd done this that it would have to go into the plain blade jig on the sharpener.
You've got another bit now. I think is it part of the top? It's looks like the bit that you hold on to, maybe.
Yeah, this was sort of like the top clamp. So you would rest your hand on this, but also it's what held the blade in place. And it at the front of this top clamp, it slides under a pin that goes across the plane, and then there's a lock nut, well, a clamping nut that goes into this piece that I'm working on, and then that would screw down and press against the blade to hold the blade in place. So this was getting, again, a sanding, because I'd decided that this was going to have a quick lick of some black paint, just to make it look nice and tidy. And obviously it's going to protect it as well, the paint, from hopefully further corrosion.
So now you've got that bit on some tissue. I think you're about to spray it. It looks like you've got a can.
Yeah, I had a can of black acrylic, so I'd spent a minute or two shaking it up, and I remember having the clamp locking wheel, held in some wire, rather than me just hold the wheel and get paint all over my fingers. Not that it would have mattered because they were filthy, but so I sprayed the wheel, and then I remember having to just gingerly feel around this just to get my bearings and then hit the paint. But like I say, I used to work in the automotive industry, so I pretty much was good to go with this technique, and I just put it on.
Just give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, just put it on some. It actually had 2 coats left to dry in between.
So now you've got the little wooden knob.
Yeah, this was sanded. It's for some reason it had a piece of old sort of like jute twine wrapped around it, and I thought that might have been to hold it together if it was split right in two. But I took the string off and it didn't fall apart. So maybe it was there just in case your granddad needed it, some string at hand. I don't know, but the string came off and the knob didn't fall apart. So the knob was sanded. It took quite a while, but it was sanded, and then
you've got it on the end of a tool here.
Yeah, and then what I decided was to, don't panic, folks. I held it, a decent amount of distance away from my hands, and I know when the blow lamp is kissing the knob because the tone of the flame changed, which anyone that uses blow torches and blow lamps and things, that tone does change. So I knew when I was hitting the knob, so I was just giving it a caress with the heat and rotating it.
Did you must have had a smell of it as well? Did it not smell when it was getting the heat?
Yeah, you'd smell the charring. Right. So yeah, I just took my time, and it only took a minute, but I just wanted to after I'd sanded it, I wanted to make it look a bit old as well, so I remember hitting it with the blowtorch and then I polished it.
You've got a paintbrush now. You're painting something on.
Yeah, I applied
Slightly. Oh, it's just come back in shot.
Dark stained wood wax. So I applied it by brush to get it worked in thoroughly, and then it was left to dry, and then it was buffed off, and then I gave it a second coat. So that was just to give it an old, in my mind, an old look, but it had been refurbished and sanded, and it had been fettled with.
You've now got a tin of wax polish.
Oh, I think I was just showing you
bison,
what. Right, yeah, I think I was just showing the folks what actually I was using. So it was, yeah, black bison furniture wax.
And you got some tissue now, I think, and you're polishing it up.
Yeah, I gave it a buff up, and then when that was done, it was just set to one side.
I think you're just finishing off.
Yeah, it's only a tiny knob, so it was a bit awkward to hold it and get enough purchase with the tissue to buff it up, but it works because I'm always wary of dropping things like this.
So now you've got your jet sharpening.
Yeah. Well, luckily when I purchased this jet, it did come supplied with a plain blade jig, so I just off camera adjusted the arm that holds the jig up and down until I could basically feel that I had good bevel contact, similar to what was already on it, and then I just kept the jig moving, so I was getting even wear across the stone and as good a profile on the blade bevel as I could. So I was just taking my time, and obviously because it's water cooled, this stone, you're not going to affect the temper, and yeah, it was enjoyable and it worked well, which hopefully you'll see at the end of this video. I was pleased with the results. So I mean, they're great, these water cooled stones, and they're so safe to use, and you're not rushing and panicking like you would with a high speed grinder, and you're keeping the blade all nicely intact.
So now you've got everything laid out.
So yeah, everything's laid out, and it wasn't a complicated build to put everything back together because there's only a few parts, and everything had been cleaned with the petrol. So there's a mechanism that can lower and raise the angle of attack for the blade. So after a good clean in the petrol, that moved freely. It hardly moved at all before the clean, and then it moved really cleanly and smoothly. So I was just again, I'd feel all the parts just to reaffirm what I had in front of me, and I'd sort of like sussed out how it all went back together. Although, you know, you can always get confused a little bit and just forget when you can't see. But it's just like doing a pen kit, you know, a lot of touching and feeling and working things out. But that's a lot of fun for me doing that sort of stuff.
It looks really nice. You've got hold of the base again, and you just put the knob onto it and the screw in the knob.
Just a simple screw that holds the knob in place.
Is that the original screw?
As far as I'm aware, yeah.
With it?
Yeah, that was the one that was already there, because obviously it's the thread on that screw fitted the front of the plane. So yeah, I didn't do anything.
You just gone and got a screwdriver.
All I did again was just the top of that screw. I gave it a very quick rub with some sandpaper just to knock 70 years of age and wear and tear.
So you've got the round bit now that goes on the opposite end.
Well,
Are you screwing it on? It's the smaller bit, it's not the one with the 4 holes in it.
right, well, it felt like a little brass wheel.
Yeah, that's brass.
Yeah, so yeah, that's what raises and lowers the mechanism for altering the pitch of the blade. So just making sure that that was located, and basically the mechanism grabs that brass wheel above and below a rim.
Right.
So you have to put it in right. So
I think you're putting the blade in now.
Yeah, I was just sort of like once I started fiddling with it, I was just double checking mentally that the blade went in the right way.
And then the bit you painted black has gone on the top.
And then the top.
You've just taken it off again. You're putting the other round wheel on it, I think.
Yeah, this wheel is what will screw down, and then it will press against the back of the blade and hold that in place. It sort of clamps it down. So this is a whole clamping mechanism, and it is obviously somewhere to put the palm of your hand as well.
You're just finishing putting it together now.
Yeah, it was enjoyable. It only took a few minutes to put it all back together. Like I say, so a few but even with the modern plane, there's not that many parts to them, because I've found your dad's old Stanley plane. I don't know what size it is, but it's one of the sort of like the biggish ones, and I've taken the blade out of that and give it a sharpen. And, there's only a couple of plates, a couple of pieces.
Well, it looks like it's nearly together now. You're just screwing that brass ring at the back.
Yeah, I just double checked, and I think whilst I was assembling it, something moved out of position, so I just might have just slackened a couple of things off and just tried again. Maybe I'd just not tightened things down enough and moved them. So I think the angle of the blade was a bit askew at one point, so I just had another go.
So you've got a piece of wood now in the clamp.
Yeah, this was just, everything was reassembled, and I was just checking that the blade was nice and sharp, and it actually worked. It was fit for purpose. So I remember listening to how well it sounded, how good it sounded as I was playing in, and I was getting some nice shavings off. So I was absolutely overjoyed at this point, because I thought, flipping it, this is sort of like the first tool restoration that I've done. Certainly, I've repaired things in the past, but certainly being completely blind, to attempt this, I knew I could do it, but I was just hoping it worked, and I got shavings. So it was really nice to give this old Sargent a lease of life.